tell you fascists, you may be surprised that people in this country are getting organized. You're bound to lose, you fascists, bound to lose. I'm gonna tell you workers, when you cash your checks, they say America first, but they mean America's next. You're bound to lose, you fascists, bound to lose. All you fascists bound to lose. All you fascists bound to lose. All you fascists bound to lose. You're bound to lose, you fascists bound to lose.
Hi everyone, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. We'll get started in just a minute.
People of every color marching side by side, marching across these fields where 1 million fascists died. You're bound to lose, you fascists bound to lose. I'm going into battle, gonna take my Union gun, and I ain't gonna lay it down till every battle's won. You're bound to lose, you fascists bound to lose. All you fascists bound to lose. All you fascists bound to lose. All you fascists bound to lose. You're bound to lose, you fascists bound to lose.
Welcome everyone. We'll get started in just a minute. So glad you're here.
This hatred cannot break us, but I'm learning quick. Our children won't be sold on your poison rhetoric. You're bound to lose, you fascists bound to lose. Here comes a big machine surrounding all your hate, forcing it to surrender. Now it's getting late. You're bound to lose, you fascists bound to lose. All you fascists bound to lose. All you fascists bound to lose. All you fascists bound to lose. You're bound to lose, you fascists bound to lose.
Welcome everyone. So great to see you all. We're gonna get started in just one more minute.
All you fascists bound to lose. All you fascists bound to lose. All you fascists bound to lose. You're bound to lose, you fascists bound to lose. You're bound to lose, you fascists bound to lose.
Yeah, welcome. So glad you all are here. My name is Marissa, and I'm going to be leading us through our action hour tonight. It is so great to see some familiar names joining us from all over the country. See some people who have joined for previous action hours. So glad to have you back, and wonderful to see some new names. Welcome to those who are joining for the first time. We're so glad to see you here. So let's get started. Today, our action hour is going to be focused on Trump's budget bill that is moving through Congress, currently approaching a vote in the Senate. And I'm going to introduce this space and kind of talk us through what we're going to be doing today in just a minute. But like we have for the last few months, I want to open with a poem, a quote. Art and music and poetry are things that can really help us get through some of the fear and uncertainty that many of us are experiencing, and help maybe tap into some of the feelings that are hard to access. And they can also help us imagine the world that we're trying to build, even if it's not here yet. So here is a quote from Alice Walker. There is always a moment in any kind of struggle when one feels in full bloom, vivid, alive. One might be blown to bits in such a moment and still be at peace. To be such a person, or to witness anyone at this moment of transcendent presence, is to know that what is human is linked by a daring comparison to what is divine. During my years of being close to people engaged in changing the world, I have seen fear turn to courage, sorrow into joy, funerals into celebration. Because whatever the consequences, people standing side by side have expressed who they really are, and that ultimately they believe in the love of the world and each other enough to be that, which is the foundation of activism. Alice Walker. And yeah, in this moment of such intense fear and sorrow and funerals, but also such beautiful courage and movement building and activism and people standing side by side, it just felt like a good moment to bring Alice Walker into this space. So with that, what are we doing here today? For those of you new to the Sierra Club, welcome. The Sierra Club is one of the oldest and largest grassroots environmental organizations in the country. We have 64 chapters in every state, Washington, D.C., and Puerto Rico. We have an outings program that gets people into nature, and we run powerful national, state, and local campaigns to fight for all sorts of things, fighting climate change, fighting to protect wild places, wildlife, and protect our communities from pollution. So, what are action hours? Next slide, please. We started doing action hours back in January when Trump was elected with the intention of creating a monthly space for concerned, overwhelmed, busy people to make sense of what is coming at us and find a way to take meaningful action together. And in the last few months, we've done some pretty good work together. All of us have made thousands and thousands of phone calls to Congress, submitted letters to the editor of thousands of local papers, shared hundreds and hundreds of posts on social media, created art and sent handwritten letters to Congress, and a lot more. And we've heard from some of you that this space was the first time that you'd ever taken actions like these. And it was a lot easier than you thought it would be. And that was just so great to hear. So if you are feeling a little nervous or unsure because you haven't done any of these things before, don't worry, we've got your back. Just like we've done in previous months, we're going to walk you through exactly how to take these actions step by step. So we're going to start the session with an issue briefing, where our Sierra Club experts will provide an overview of what's happening in Washington or around the country and explains what it means for all of us. And then we'll go through 2 actions together that, really our goal is at the end of the hour, we can all leave feeling like we did something, like we made a difference. And there's just so much chaos and harm happening right now, and so much in the world that needs protecting. We're all seeing Trump and his allies going after our most marginalized communities and tearing apart our government, targeting our neighbors, gutting healthcare and education, undermining democracy, and now bombing Iran. And we really are in the fight for the future of this country and of the world. And it's a lot to hold. And I know many of us are feeling heightened levels of fear and anxiety for our families, for our loved ones. And it's just hard to see the people we love and the places we call home put more and more at risk. And of course, these attacks on our environment, our health, our future, they're happening, they're reaching new heights right at the moment when we need to be protecting climate action and our environment even more. Just this week, millions of people, probably many of you, are facing pretty extreme heat. Some are facing flooding. And this budget bill that Trump is pushing through Congress would only make extreme weather worse. It'd make energy costs more expensive. At a time when economic inequality is at record highs, it would be the largest upward transfer of wealth in U.S. history. It would throw millions of people off their health care. It would destroy tens of thousands, more hundreds of thousands of good green jobs at exactly the moment, right, when we need to be building the clean energy future. It would put our public lands at risk and a whole lot more. So with all of that, what do we do, right? We need to get more people involved, but we also need to stay focused. We need mass resistance, broad demands like the No Kings protest that can get millions and millions of people out into the streets. And then we need to keep acting in ways large and small, putting pressure on decision makers with clear and clear-eyed goals. And we need to invite our friends and family and neighbors to get involved with us. So we hope that these action hours are one way you can do that. They are intended to kind of help cut through all the noise and the chaos and be a place where you can just show up, get the key updates you need to know, and do something in an hour or less that will put pressure on those key decision makers. So with that, let's do it. Let's review. Okay, we just reviewed the agenda. Great. And before we get started, I do want to review our community norms quickly. We ask that you all engage with kindness and respect and that you're just willing to try things out. Some of you might be very familiar and comfortable with the types of actions that we're going to offer, and others might not be, and that is totally okay. We hope that you are just willing to give it a shot and try it out. We really welcome your questions, comments, disagreements are great, but let's keep it constructive and engage with respect. And of course, prejudice or bullying will not be tolerated. And then a final note on technology before we dive into the briefing. So we are streaming live across Sierra Club's YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn channels. And we have people, I see people joining from all of those platforms today. Oh, I see Nathan is saying the YouTube is not working. Lots of people waiting over there. Thank you, Nathan. Maybe somebody can, we have a whole great tech team on the back end. So maybe someone can help take a look at what's happening with the YouTube. So if you need closed captioning, that is available on Facebook and LinkedIn. Unfortunately, captioning is not available live on YouTube. And then finally, use the chat function to ask questions, make comments. We really welcome all sorts of questions, and we will do our best to reply. Pat and Mike are going to come on for the briefing in just a moment, and we will do a brief Q&A after the briefing. So feel free to leave those questions in the chat, and we'll do our best to get through as many as we can. Okay, great. Looks like YouTube is working. Thanks all. Great news. Okay, with that, let's bring Pat and Mike up and get going on the briefing. They're going to talk us through more detail about protecting our public lands and climate action from the Trump budget bill.
Okay. We good? All right. Thank you. Hey, everybody. I'm Mike Scott. I'm the National Oil and Gas Campaign Manager for the Sierra Club. I'm assuming everybody came here because this bill is bad. I'm here to tell you a little bit about how bad it is and to take a look at some key provisions that we could get stripped out to make this a little bit better. So let's just dive into the public lands sell-off that we're threatened with right now. Senator Mike Lee has proposed the sale of millions of acres of our public land in order to fund tax cuts for billionaires in this bill. This is the second attempt to sneak this provision into the legislation, with the first failing in the House version. Now, specifically, Lee's version calls for the sale of between 2.2 and 3.3 million acres of public land, but it's not clear where that public land is. So that means it could be anywhere out of 250 million acres. Not only is this outrageous on the face of it, but this is going to set a precedent for selling off our public land in the future. And so there's no doubt that this would be the first of many sales that we would see as time goes on. And I know that there's a lot of news floating around about this today. The Senate parliamentarian, has ruled that this provision didn't exactly meet the bar for the reconciliation bill. However, we still need to keep the pressure on when it comes to this provision, because Lee has already said that he is going to rework this and try again. And we expect to see another attempt to sell off our lands. We just don't know what it's going to look like yet. We can go ahead and move to the next slide, because there's a lot going on in the oil and gas side of things as well. It's not bad enough that they're trying to sell out all of our public lands, but this bill also contains multiple provisions to dramatically increase oil and gas leasing on public lands. And that includes millions and millions of acres that are untouched by any industrialization right now. The bill itself would require 4 additional lease sales in the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge. This is an area that the Sierra Club has been working for decades to protect. It would dramatically increase oil and gas leasing in the Western Arctic, which is just to the west of the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge. Basically, anywhere where there's federal oil and gas available in the lower 48, it will require quarterly lease sales. This will mean that millions of acres across the West will be locked up under oil and gas leases. It also contains mandated leasing for the Gulf of Mexico, as well as Cook Inlet in Alaska. It establishes a new high Arctic offshore area in an attempt to make it easier to develop an area that's proven to be way too dangerous and way too costly in the past. And I think this last provision is one of the most insulting to all of us. It attempts to exclude projects from judicial review, giving oil and gas companies more rights than the American public. It does this by allowing project developers to pay for environmental assessments and environmental impact statements in advance. If they put down 125% of the expected cost, they will get the studies expedited, which means less public input, and they attempt to exempt them from judicial review under NEPA. This is an absolutely blatant attempt to strip us of our ability to protect our communities and our special places. I would note that some of these oil and gas provisions as well are being reviewed by the parliamentarian, but what we've learned from the things that dropped out of the House version is that we need to keep pressure on everything here, because they are going to continue to try to push this radical agenda. So that's why it's just so vital that people pick up the phone, write a letter, and take action today. I am going to pass it on now to Patrick to talk about some of the other provisions. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Mike. Hey, everyone. My name is Pat Drupp. I'm the Director of Climate Policy at the Sierra Club based in Washington, D.C., where it's like 102 degrees right now, like Mo mentioned earlier. And in addition to all of the stuff that Mike just said about the public land sell-off, the other major parts of this bill from the environmental perspective are huge attacks on our clean energy progress, on programs that are designed to reduce pollution in communities, at ports, at schools, designed to reduce pollution from vehicles, power plants, go to environmental justice initiatives. All of those kinds of things are at risk here and being proposed to be taken back. And again, all of that's really to pay for billionaire tax cuts for the ultra wealthy, for corporate polluters. So like I said, there's been attacks across the board here. But one of the areas that kind of is still up for debate within the Republican Party, and which hasn't really been locked in place yet and still has an opportunity to be changed. Again, this bill is terrible, no doubt. It will be terrible regardless. But there is an opportunity to fix a few little things, and I think that's worth trying to fix if we have the opportunity to make anything less bad. And so one of those areas is in a lot of the clean energy investments that were created a few years ago during the Biden administration, or extended or enhanced a few years ago for renewables, for batteries, for electric vehicles, energy efficiency, for folks to buy new, better energy efficient appliances, things like that. So they're trying to bring all that stuff back. And I just want to, so people are aware of the timeline, the plan is to try and get all of this through Congress by July 4th. That means the Senate needs to get done with their part probably by this weekend. So like we are pushing up against, it's a self-imposed deadline. They don't have to meet it, but that's like what they are moving for. And that's why it's so important that y'all are on this call right now. And, we continue to pull out all the stops over the last couple of weeks here. You can go to the next slide. Specifically on the clean energy stuff, again, this is one of the parts that there is still kind of like a disconnect. The full Republican Party isn't in agreement on what they want to do here. And so there's an opportunity to change some of the really bad things that the House proposed and, make them a little less bad, to be honest. Not fixing them by all means, but making them a bit less bad. and helping to protect some of these investments that have really spurred renewable energy development in the last few years. They have been helping people save money to buy new EVs, buy new appliances, and they've spurred hundreds of billions of dollars in new manufacturing jobs, created thousands of jobs with millions more projected over the next couple of years. And they've really essentially done a wholesale repeal of them in what they've proposed. Like I said, that is not all in agreement yet. And so calling people, putting pressure on them, letting them know that this is going to impact your community and you won't stand for it is super important right now to every member of Congress. If these things are rolled back, we will see a continue in the trend of canceling all sorts of clean energy projects, new investments in like solar panel manufacturing, battery manufacturing, all of these things that we're really starting to get up and running in the last 2 or 3 years. All of that could come, to a halt or really slow down. We've already seen historic cancellations in planned investments over the past 6 months. And we need to stop that trend. That's all due to the uncertainty of what this administration and what this Congress are trying to propose here. So you can go to the next slide. So really just want to leave with this. I think there is still some leverage available to change some of these things, especially on the public lands sell-off proposals and on these clean energy investments. Those are like the two big areas where we have the most leverage. We know that repeals of these kinds of things can cause a lot of economic problems. There's as many as millions of jobs at stake, hundreds of billions of dollars in investments for new clean energy, and obviously millions of acres of public lands that so many people are trying to protect are at stake here. A lot of this stuff is wildly unpopular. We're on the path of lowering energy bills. This stuff will raise energy bills. We've protected historic levels of public lands. This would sell public lands in an unprecedented way. And we're really starting to own this energy transition, and this bill would really give that away. And I think we all know, there is no time to wait. Climate change is here. Inaction on all of this stuff is going to cost us far greater than whatever we're spending to stop it. So really appreciate everyone being here. Again, there is a chance to change some of these things, but we have to keep the pressure up. We have to hold folks accountable. We have to call our members, which you're going to be doing in a minute. Doesn't matter if they're a Democrat or a Republican. If they support or if they're on the right side of this bill, tell them that you appreciate that, and that will give them more confidence to speak up and keep making these issues shine as much daylight on them as possible. If they're on the wrong side of these issues, continue to tell them how it's going to impact their community and make things worse for their constituents. So flood their social media, write op-eds, LTEs, all that kind of stuff. Like I said, we're in the last couple of weeks of this, and we have to pull out all the stops here because we really do have an opportunity to make a really terrible bill a little bit less terrible, and save some things, and anything that we can save in this process, I think, is worth doing. So I will stop there, and I think we have a few minutes for questions. And thanks so much, everyone, for being here.
Thank you both. That was great. Okay, and really good questions coming in the chat as well. Feel free to keep asking them. We'll answer a few live right now, and then we'll try to get to as many as we can in the chat. And I'm also going to bring Jackie Feinberg on as well, our conservation campaign manager, to help answer questions. Okay, so yes, we had some good questions come in. So first, Pat, you just started addressing this, but feel free to expand, or Mike or Jackie add on. I have diehard Republican senators. Is it still worth contacting them? Are there some senators we're really trying to target? And that was a question from Lisa.
It is worth contacting them. There are some people who we have targeted more with different tactics and things, who have been a little more publicly outspoken in either their opposition to the public land sell-off, or they don't like, what was proposed to happen to these clean energy tax credits, where they were like phased out too quickly or things like that. But there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes. We don't need people necessarily. We want people to speak up publicly and say they don't like it. But a lot of negotiations can go on behind the scenes. And a lot of Republican senators are actively having those conversations, even if they don't speak up publicly. And so continuing to call them and making your voice heard is super important. So they're having those private conversations. They're talking to the people who are writing the text, and they feel, like that's something that they need to do, even if they kind of never admit it.
Could I chime in on that one real quick too? Because I also have diehard Republican senators and representatives. I'm up here in Montana, and I just want to point out that it's a diehard Republican representative that drew a red line on sales of public lands in the South or in the House of Representatives. Ryan Zinke is not a moderate. Neither is Troy Downing. And that was public pressure from Montana that made them flip their positions. So it is proof of concept that this can work on even the reddest of red Republicans.
And if I can just add one more thing, in addition to Montana, we've also seen both Republican senators from Idaho come out publicly against the public land sell-off because of such amazing organizing and hearing from people in their states about how much they love public lands. And I'll also see if I can put in the chat, but there's a number of House Republicans too who have spoken up in favor of public lands. So please continue to raise your voices to these offices.
Yeah, thank you all. I'm seeing a lot of people in the chat who are eager to contact their senators. We're going to get to that in just a moment. And some people asking about when to contact their representatives, when to contact their senators, both, all of them. Right now, we're focusing on the Senate because the bill is going to be voted on in the Senate any day now. In previous months, we've focused on the House. After the Senate votes, we'll go back to focusing on the House. So it really just depends. Any kind of public pressure we can be doing anytime, it all adds up. But we want to make sure that we're hitting the right targets at just the right moment. Let's do maybe two more questions here. Let's see. Holly is asking, when we say our public lands, how are they ours? Do we support them with our taxes? Maybe I'll go to, I'll start with you, Jackie.
Sure. Yes, we do support national public lands with our taxes. Federal government agencies ranging from well-known ones like the National Park Service and U.S. Forest Service, and also agencies like the Bureau of Land Management and the Fish and Wildlife Service, as well as others, manage them on behalf of all of the American people. So everybody, no matter whether you live near these lands or you live 3,000 miles away from some of these lands, you have a stake in the future of them. And it's really important for people across the country to raise their voice in support.
Thank you, Jackie. Let's see, I'll try to do a few of these quickly in the chat. There's some people asking if the public land sale has been taken out of the bill. So yes, right now it is out, but Lee has already said that he's going to try to get that back in. And really, I think the takeaway is that we're in a moment where everything is in flux. Like they're duking it out right now. So what's in and out of the bill is changing day to day. And so this is such a critical moment for us to be trying to add that pressure and shift it to delay and fight the bill for as long as we can and get the worst parts of it out. Okay, let's do one more question and then we're going to get going with the actions because that's why we're here. Let's see what is the status of efforts to repeal the Inflation Reduction Act? And that's from Melanie. Pat, can I hand that to you first?
Yeah, I mean, this is it. This is the effort to repeal, and it is essentially a whole-scale repeal of almost everything that we got in the Inflation Reduction Act. Much of the money was already spent, so they don't get to take that back. But in terms of the tax credits and the clean energy investments and all that kind of stuff that I was talking about, that's kind of still in flux. That is a whole-scale repeal of really the signature part of the clean energy package within the Inflation Reduction Act.
Yeah. And I know many of you, so many thousands and thousands of Sierra Club supporters and volunteers fought for years to pass the Inflation Reduction Act. And it is really hard to see, these attempts to roll it back. So with that, I think we should move on to action. Thank you, Mike, Pat, Jackie. Let's get going here. Okay, so the two actions that we are going to be doing today are first, calling your senators and writing a letter to the editor. And I want to take a minute to tell you why these are important actions that are effective and that are worth your time. So Sierra Club partners with the nonpartisan Congressional Management Foundation that studies kind of engagement between members of Congress and their constituents. And they compile data from congressional staff, people who work in our senators and representatives' offices, about the types of public communication that they get from constituents that have the most impact on swaying a member of Congress's position, especially if that person has not already reached a firm position on something. And so phone calls are consistently ranked as a really important way to persuade a member of Congress. And our colleagues who have worked on Capitol Hill can confirm this. Many of us have spent time as the staffers who answer these phone calls, speaking with constituents, and they are required to make a record of every call that they get and report those to their member of Congress. So this is a fast, small, easy action. It's important to do whether your senator is a Democrat or a Republican. Like Pat mentioned, there are Republicans who are opposing this bill because a lot of the jobs that are created by clean energy are in red states. A lot of these public lands are in red states. If your senator is a Democrat, we don't just need them to oppose the bill, to vote no. We need them to be doing more. We need them to be advocating. We need them to be out there fighting and not just, show up to vote no. So, I know that maybe for some of you, you've made a lot of calls already and it doesn't feel like it's having a big difference. And I just want to remind all of us that alone, it does not make a big difference, but together it really adds up. And through just these action hours, we've placed thousands and thousands and thousands of calls, and that's significant. And you might have seen reports on the news of offices getting overwhelmed with calls. That really adds up. However, there is a big difference between an effective phone call and an ineffective phone call. So I think we have this on the next slide. Some key things to remember when you're making your calls. Identify yourself as a constituent. I've seen a few people asking, can we call someone in Congress who doesn't represent us? We don't recommend that because they will almost always, I think, ask you if you live in the state and they care what their constituents say because those are future voters, right? So you want to identify yourself as a constituent. You want to be specific. You want to say exactly why you're calling, what you want them to do, and make it personal always helps. Why do you care? What is the passion or the perspective that you're bringing to this? And then follow the ABCs. Be accurate, be brief, be courteous. Say thank you, even if it's someone you really disagree with. And that's that. So we just put a script in the chat. There's a little worksheet. And then if we also go to the next slide, we'll keep this sample script up on the screen so that you can use it when you make your call. And I'm going to bring Megan. Oh, hi, Megan. Megan and I are going to just do a very quick example so you can see how fast this is. So Megan, why don't you pretend to be the senator's staffer and I will pretend to be someone making a call. Sound good?
Perfect.
Okay. All right. So ring, 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 ring.
Hello, this is Senator Merkley's office. How may I help you?
Hi there. My name is Marissa, and I live in Oakland, California. And I'm calling today to urge you to protect clean energy and oppose the sell-off of public lands in the budget bill. It's just really so important to me that future generations have a stable climate and can enjoy our precious natural landscapes. And I really feel like it's my duty and your duty to protect them. So please pass this message on to the senator. Thank you so much.
All right, I will pass your message along to the senator.
Great. Easy peasy. It really takes about 30 seconds usually. So with that, we're going to all go on mute. We're going to make the call too right now. Someone's asking about leaving messages. Yes, voicemails count. Occasionally, the voicemail will be full. If that happens, we encourage you to try calling back again in the morning, especially those of you on the East Coast. So let's all take a second. I'm going to go on mute and let's make our call. We'll come back here in about 2 minutes. Great. I see a few people saying they're done. Let us know in the chat if you finished your call. Great job, everyone. Incredible. So great. Okay. If you want to and have time to call back again after, you will be connected to your other senator. So we definitely encourage that as well. Okay, seeing some more reports. Seems like it varies a little bit based on the office, but it looks like a lot of people got connected. Great. Wonderful job, everyone. Okay. So with that, we're going to move on to our next action. That was so fast. That took less than 2 minutes, but yeah, I know that always leaves me feeling good, and it feels even better to be doing it alongside all of you. So for our next action, we're going to be writing letters to the editor, and I'm going to pass it to my colleague Megan to talk us through it.
Perfect. Thank you, Marissa. So yeah, our next tactic is writing letters to the editor. And first, I want to just talk a little bit about why this is important, as Mo kind of went over some of this. But For letters to the editor, or LTEs specifically, it's a great way to get the word out because these letters often appear in the first section of a publication. And either way, the opinion section is highly read, a highly read part of most news outlets. And this is especially effective for political and legislative advocacy, which is what we're doing, because legislative staff closely monitor these opinion pages of local newspapers in their districts. So that means that your target is very likely to see it, and it is definitely likely to be counted as they're making their decisions. So we have an online tool that makes it really easy for you to draft your letters. We're going to share the link in the chat. It's also, the short link is sc.org/SEN-LTE. It's on the slides right now, or you can scan the QR code if you want to do that. And then I'm going to share my screen, and I am actually going to walk through using this tool. Oh, I need to, sorry. All right, here we go. Okay, so when you go to the tool link, this is what you should see. First, you need to enter some of your information. So it asks for your name, email address, and your address. So one thing to note is that papers will not publish identifying information. They're not going to publish your street address or your email address, but editors do want to be able to contact you if they have questions, and they want to be able to verify that you are who you are. The address is also really important because, as you can see here, this tool will automatically populate 10 local newspapers based off of your address. And you can uncheck these if you don't want to send your letter to some of these, or if you want to, target specific ones, you are able to check or uncheck any of these that you want. So then if you scroll down, you can see here is where you can draft your letter. We have a draft letter in here already, but we really, really ask you to personalize this. Even just writing in your senators' names can help make this stand out and seem more personal. You can also edit the subject line, which will be the title of your opinion piece. Another point that I want to make is that bullet points are here more to help you than to actually be part of the format of your letter. It's better to not have bullet points and to incorporate these into paragraphs. And you can even, if you want, you can delete all of this and start from scratch if you would prefer to do that. And down here, if you can see in the bottom, I don't know how well you can see parts of my screen, but bottom right corner, it says 25 words right here. It's best to aim for about 150 words. You don't want your letter to be too long, or it's less likely to get published. And then the last thing to note is that you want to include a sentence about why this is important to you specifically. So you can say something like, as a teacher, as a mother, as a grandparent, as blank, this issue is important to me because of this reason. So that also really helps pull it together and share why this is important to you. And then when you are done writing your letter, you can click this submit your letter button, and it will automatically be submitted to the papers that you had checked. All right, so I'm going to remove this from the stage and bring back the slides. Okay, so yes, once again, the short link is sc.org/SEN-LTE. That should also be in the chat. And that is where you'll find the sample letter and everything. And we're going to leave this sample letter up on the slide as well, so you can use that for reference. And we'll give people about 5 or 6 minutes to edit the template and submit your letter. But also don't feel too much pressure. If you don't feel like your letter is complete by then, feel free to keep working on it and submit it after we conclude the call. And also all of this can be found in the worksheet. So we'll drop that worksheet link into the chat again. It's sc.org/June worksheet. So we're going to pause for a few minutes to let everybody work on their letters in silence. All right, everybody. I'm seeing a lot of good activity in the chat. A lot of people saying that they're done, that it was really easy. Also, some folks asking about whether these links will be available afterward. So yes, you can still access these links after the live stream is over. We will also send a follow-up email tomorrow, probably with all of these links and the June worksheet in it. So if you were not able to do it while we were live on this call, all of that material will be there tomorrow as well. And I believe I am passing it back to Marissa.
Thank you, Megan. Okay, this is great. I'm seeing that we already have 50 letters that have been submitted, and I think on average, maybe to 5 to 10 different newspapers. So that's about 500 letters to the editor that we all just submitted. And I think I know more of you are still working on it. So thank you all. This is great, and this is a great new tool that we are really loving. It makes it submitting so easy. But yes, we can't tell if your letter is published. So if you get an email from the paper, or if you Google your name and you see it, would love for you to let us know. Please reach out. It's always great for us to hear when one of these letters gets published. Okay, so we are getting close to the end of our call. I really hope that these actions were helpful for you all today. Before we close, I want us all to just take a minute to try to brainstorm 2 or 3 or maybe even 4 friends and family, neighbors, people in your life who you could send a quick email to, who might be looking for ways to get involved, but they're busy. They don't have a lot of time. Maybe they have mobility issues, or they have kids, or they're not able to go to protests, but actions like this might be exactly what they're looking for. Really want to invite all of us to remember that we are the most effective messengers to our friends and family, right? Sierra Club, we do our best to reach out to people, to encourage them to take effective actions, but really each of you are the people who are going to be most effective at reaching your own friends and family, because we all trust our friends and family, right? And that is, if you're looking for something else to do, that is the next most important thing that you can do. Get your friends and family involved. We are going to be sending out an email, like Megan said, with all of this information. You can just forward that along. It will have the phone script. It will have the number to call. It will have the link to the letter to the editor. And maybe you'll even invite them to join you for our next action hour. So with that, we're going to move towards close. This has been such a great hour. It's really just been so nice to have a space set aside to come together and take these actions. I know it can definitely be hard for me to get myself to do these things alone. So having a group to do it with makes it way more likely that I will actually make that call or send that letter. So thank you all so much for showing up today. You didn't have to spend your hour here with us, but you did. So thank you. And I do want to also invite us to think about what it will take for us to keep showing up, and invite you all to do that. And maybe, honestly, maybe that means we need to stop reading quite so much news if it's going to paralyze us and keep us from acting. I know sometimes that's true for me. It's all about finding the right balance. Maybe it means we need to find a buddy to do this work with, someone who is going to, text us the day before and say, hey, are you going to the next action hour? Or, hey, do you want to go volunteer with this group? And maybe it does mean joining your local Sierra Club chapter or another organization. Really, the most effective thing we can do as individuals is to be less of individuals, to join a group, join an organization, do things with other people, get your friends and family involved. So if you are interested in joining your Sierra Club chapter, like I said, we have 64 chapters all around the country. There's a link in the chat, sierraclub.org/chapters, to find one near you. And then the final thing before we close is that we're going to end with a survey. Like we said, we just started this a few months ago. It's still a relatively new program, and we would really, really love your feedback. We read every single message that you leave. It will help us improve. So if you have just 1 or 2 minutes before the end of the hour here, please stay on and take this very short survey. Let us know what you liked today. Let us know what we can do better. Let us know what kind of actions you'd be most interested in doing in the future. Did you like the calls? Did you like the letters to the editor? Maybe you want to do something else, like posting on social media has been one that we've done before. We want to hear it all. So we've put the link to the survey in the chat. It's sc.org/action survey. And yeah, let us know what you thought. And once you finish the survey, feel free to hop off. So with that, thank you all so much. Take care, and we'll hope to see you again soon.